YouTube, how are you all? So today is going to be a little DIY project. I keep doing that a lot, but I'm too lazy to film it most of the time. As you all know, I did a spark plug change a few thousand kilometers ago. I keep changing brake pads. I basically do most of the maintenance work myself because I find it more economical, and also I find that no mechanic is better than me. So as you can see, the oil is being drained from the bike, but this is not a DIY about an oil change. I'll be showing you guys how to change the brake pads on a motorcycle, because oil change is relatively an easy job, but I'll be doing a separate video on it. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the tools you'll need. And most importantly, it's pretty much a simple procedure if you follow all the small guidelines. So we'll be changing the rear brake pads for now. I am changing the front ones too, but basically it's the same procedure for the rear pads and the front pads. So I'll just show you. My bike is a 2014 Kawasaki ER6N. It's pretty much the same for other motorcycles without a lot of electronic aids. Like, you know, if it's an S1000RR or an RSV4, it's probably going to be a little bit different because you need to calibrate the brake sensors and also. Without further ado, you need a flathead screwdriver. This is to pry the brake pads apart when they are inside the piston to create gap for the new pads. A 12 number T wrench. So this will vary depending on your bike, but in case of my bike, a 12 number T wrench would do. The rear brake pads are secured by two 6 number Allenkeys, as you can see here and here. So you will also need an Allenkey. If you have a T Allenkey wrench, it's better, but you can make do with this also. You can just put it in, you know, use this as a support to turn it around. That's what we're going to do right now. So sorry, I have a little bit of a cold. So to start off, I'll be putting my Allenkey wrench in the first thing. We'll be putting this in, turning it around. Oh shit. So to start off, we'll be putting in the Allenkey. Just put this inside. छोट-मोट चीज़ें आखिरी सताते, and sometimes it goes off with a little bit of a jerk. That's why I suggest you use T wrenches. These are supposed to be pretty tight because you don't want them coming loose. With a little bit of hard work, I've successfully pulled the rear brake piston off. So once the brake piston is free, as you can see, my pads are pretty badly worn out. So this is the brake piston inside, which presses it in. So one more disclaimer: when the piston is off, do not, I repeat, do not press the motorcycle brake lever. That's gonna jam your brake pads and you're gonna have a hard time removing them. So now comes the tricky part. This up here is the oil drain plug, the brake oil drain plug. To loosen it up a little bit, and then you put a screwdriver in here to pry your brake piston backwards. That will release a little bit of oil. I don't have a tube right now, but if you have a tube, you can put the tube and, you know, let it drain someplace safe, because it's not good for your bike's paint. So because I was changing my oil already, I have this Mazdoor ka gampa, which I'll be keeping so that my drained oil is not spilling all over the place. But as much as you try, if you don't have a tube, it is going to spill. Just be careful of your nuts and bolts, keep them safe. So because I have this thing, it's easier to, you know, the oil is not going to spill everywhere. You need a 10 number regular wrench to loosen this up. So you can put the 10 number wrench, just stick your caliper onto the disc, use a 10 number wrench to loosen this up. It's not supposed to be that tight, so, you know, you can see oil is already gushing out of the opening. Just hold it above this. Take your flathead screwdriver. So take your flathead screwdriver, make sure this thing is loose enough. Stick it between the old brake pads and push your brake pads in. If this thing is not loose enough, your calipers are not gonna move back. So make sure this thing is quite loose. A lot of oil is gonna come out, so don't be worried about that. We'll be topping up the oil later. Just make sure you don't get an air gap. So you tighten this thing back up. I'm a very flimsy person, so please try to do it in a neater way. So the brake pads are held in place by this little lock nut kind of thing here. It's a long bolt which goes through the upper part of the pads, and you have a tiny clip inside which we'll have to remove. Here I have a tiny Allenkey which is going to help us out. Just push the clip, and don't lose this clip as it is a very important part of this is the clip right here. Put everything in a safe place, and then your bolt is pretty much free, so you can use a flat screwdriver or anything to just pull it out. So this is the thing which locks the upper part of the pads inside the brake piston. Just rotate these and remove them. So as you can see, they're completely worn out. So this is your brake piston. Let's put in some new pads. So there are a lot of different types of brake pads out in the market, sintered, ceramic, blah blah blah. You're gonna have to do a separate video for that, but for now these are the same OEM kind of replacement brake pads which I have right here. 2 for the front, 1 for the rear. And make sure you get good quality brake pads, else your rotors are gonna get, the disc and the disc rotor is gonna get charred pretty badly. So these are good quality ones. Make sure as your oily your hands get, keep a glove, towel or something, keep wiping them. You don't want any oil to get onto the brake pad, new brake pad surface. So let's go ahead and stick in the new brake pads. So this will give you an idea of how a new pad looks versus an old one. This is the old one, this is the new one. So you can see it's pretty much gone, the old one. I'm gonna throw that aside. This one is pretty easy to put inside. It just goes by here and locks inside. So you see why we created this extra space, so that the new pads could fit in. This one rotates. You put it in, rotate it, and it kind of locks, so you have space in between these two for the disc rotor to fit. Make sure it's properly locked in place, and then you'll have to stick this right through both the pads. It goes in. You take your lock. There is a tiny hole on this lock nut inside. I don't know if you guys can actually see it, but yeah, there is a tiny hole on that. This pin goes through that hole and goes in securely. You turn it so that it's securely inside, and now you put this thing on the disc rotor. In case it's not fitting onto your disc, you'll have to loosen it up again and push the pads even further so that it fits, and again fitting it back is a pretty normal procedure. Then you tighten your oil drain plug, and for this bike the rear oil reservoir, brake oil reservoir, is situated below the front seat. So you remove that and top up the oil accordingly, and make sure the oil isn't drained too much. If it drains too much, there's going to be an airlock. Removing that airlock is again a different tutorial. So the procedure for the front pads is also pretty much the same, only that up here in front you have two 12 number bolts instead of the Allen keys holding it together, and here is your oil drain plug, and rest all the situation is the same. You still have the same lock nut, you still have the same clip and everything. It's pretty much the same. You remove these two, remove it, and do it one by one. And again, do not, I repeat, do not press the brake lever under any circumstances. It's going to jam your piston. You need to shove something in between, you might end up damaging it, so you have to be very careful about that. So we're going to be fixing it back, and hopefully, so here is the rear brake oil reservoir. I've fixed back the piston inside. It's not completely tight. You should tighten it up, tighten this bolt as well, and you might want to remove this whole plastic thing. It's going to get deformed a bit. This is how the plastic housing is. Put it to the side and put in some brake fluid. This is .4 brake fluid. That's what is used in most of the bikes, and I think every 30,000-40,000 kilometers it's better you drain all the brake fluid out and put in new brake fluid, but that's a very lengthy process and I haven't done it till now, so maybe that's up for a later video. Put it up to now, it's below the lower mark. You put it up to the upper mark and seal everything, tighten everything, and pump your brake to tighten it up. You see that little hole inside? You need to make sure there is always oil above that hole. If air gets into that hole, then you get an air lock, and that's painful. Make sure everything is tightened up here. It's going to be a bit loose because we've kept a lot of space between the brake and the discs. You have your oil filled to the upper level, and then you pump your brake up and down, up and down, up and down. Just do it a couple of times till you feel the brake action. The adjustments are up here. That's again a different story. You can Google that if you don't feel your brake is strong enough. Once you do that, your rotor is going to lock in place, your oil level is going to settle down, and you're done. Once you do all this, use some brake cleaner on your rotor, rotate it so all the excess dirt and oil is removed back. So hope you guys enjoyed this little tutorial. Hit like if you think I should do more. Now because I've been doing it since a very long time, but try to be as organized and as clean as possible while doing your things, and make sure you don't lose any nuts, bolts and all, don't get any dirt on your thing, and especially use strong toolkits. That is what all use strong bolte na wo paane vaane zara stronger, and else they'll break, like happened with this little poor Allenkey. And all the tools you need are written down there in the description below because I couldn't list them one by one. And अपन तो pro है, बचपने से करते तो आदत है, but be more organized. And if something goes wrong, don't panic. Google है, internet है, you can always find a solution. So that's about it. Bye bye.